There's a learning process,
Yeah.
and you should continuously be learning whatever resource you're using. Mitigate your risk as best as you can, but you can never eliminate it. You can never know everything. And you certainly can't predict the future, like when your furnace is going to go out and your water heaters or.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 84 of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Today, we have the great pleasure of chatting with Kelsy Soderlund, an amazing home inspector and owner of Soderlund Inspections out of Worcester, as well as a real estate investor. What's going on, Kelsy? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited. So to kind of jump right into things, tell us kind of a little bit about how you got into real estate, a little bit about your backstory and, kind of getting into being a home inspector and that kind of thing.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I was inspired by my dad. He gave me the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, surprise, surprise, when I was, I think I was in high school. And at the time, I just kind of tossed it in the corner because what did I care? I was in high school. A few years later, he retired and he bought a diesel Volkswagen Jetta and a Scamp, which was like a tiny camper trailer. And then he drove around the country to tax sale auctions. This is like 2011, 2012. So he bought a few properties, got some parcels of land. And that was sort of my introduction, was watching him do that and then managing those properties after a period of time. And he was inspired by his father. So although we've never worked together, it runs in the family.
That's the coolest thing in the world. Wow. Especially like that young, to get that kind of influence and
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, that was definitely good for me. And then at college age, I picked up Rich Dad, Poor Dad and actually read it. And then that got me started on my own investing journey where I was hands-on and doing my own things. I got my first deal done. 2014, I was 25 at the time. It was a seller finance deal. So that was fun on a kit cabin in a rural town. It was owned by a doctor who was a very eclectic person, like many Seattleites are. And there was little hidey holes, boards in the house that would kind of open, ceiling pieces would come down. You could flip it back up, latch it, and stash things inside. So it was a fun little property.
Yeah. Lots of character.
Yes, definitely.
How did you kind of find that one? Just word of mouth or seeing it on something or?
It was on the MLS.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that you could do seller finance deals from the MLS. Was it a?
Oh, for sure. You just got to ask. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. Wow. That's the coolest thing in the world. So what I guess what kind of kind of gave you the spark, I guess you could say, to kind of learning a little bit about working with your dad and stuff like that, to then actually wanting to kind of jump in and starting to look for a property and wanting to really kind of dive in.
Okay. I was living in Thailand at the time. I spent about 6 years over there. I went to university, studied international business management. And over there, people who aren't Thai citizens are really limited on the kind of work that they could do. So I could basically be an English teacher or I could start a business. And I figured once I had left college, I should probably, get a life. And being an English teacher in Thailand wasn't going to be my long-term gig. So I decided to come back to the States. And ultimately, my goal at the time was to get a couple of rental properties so I could go back to Thailand and then just live off of my rental income. I'm still here, but I am on my way to other goals they've developed over time.
Wow. Work in progress.
Yes. Yep. It's always changing, right?
That's
Life
interesting.
goes differently than you'd expect sometimes.
Definitely. That's interesting. So like how was like is the exchange rate like, like just like the cost of living, I guess, like drastically different and like
So this is like 10 years ago now. But when I was in college over there, I had a budget of about $200 a month. And that covered my rent, gas, groceries, going out on the weekends with my friends. Yeah,
oh my goodness.
It's definitely much more affordable over there. I left college with no debt just because it was much more affordable.
Wow. That's insane. I spent like almost $200 at Home Depot last night. Like,
Right?
like
I was looking at sodas the other day and thinking about, oh yeah, I remember when I was in junior high, I could get one of these for like $1.25. They're not that much anymore.
Wow. So that's interesting. So like, you got that seller finance deal.
Yeah.
How was it kind of like stabilizing that one and like, kind of fixing up all those like beam, like boards and character, I guess you could say.
We really didn't do anything to it. I rented it out at cost for a couple of years, I think. And then I actually sold it for a really modest profit, like a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
And moved on from there. We didn't really do a lot with that one. It was sort of my first foray into, oh, wow, you can really do this. The things people say are true.
Yeah.
So yeah, more than a money maker, it was a learning experience for sure. A very valuable one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So how, I guess kind of like, bouncing right off of that project, making like a little bit on it, learning like a ton of lessons and, a little bit of experience kind of in the game. What was kind of like your plan after that, in terms of like, wanting to buy another property or kind of?
So I was going to wholesale, and I did successfully, actually, a house out of that same neighborhood.
Wow.
That one, I think, was probably a lot more formative for me because I jumped in. I had the bandit sign out. Gal called, and I had a conversation with her. She worked from home and then was out of town a lot, just didn't want to have to deal with the hassle of working with a realtor. So I straight up told her, it's like, okay, so 70% of the ARV less repairs and my fee, I'll wholesale it for you. Don't have to deal with a realtor. I'll walk through once, maybe twice, boom, done. And she said, okay. And then I said, okay.
Okay.
And then I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do. So I panicked. And I'm trying to put this lady off, like, okay, well, I can make an appointment with her in a couple of days from now. And then I've got a couple of days to find someone to partner on this deal with me and show me how to get it done from here. Because I didn't have any contracts. I didn't have anything, right? I was not expecting it to be this easy. And so I called someone, Mike Sumsky, if you're listening, shout out. Thanks for your help. I still think about you. I found an investor local in my area who had a great reputation and someone I felt I could trust working on this deal with me, who would have something to lose, whether, it was, well, more than just the money in this deal, right? And he was super helpful. He showed up. We went to the appointment together. He did the negotiating with the gal, and it was just hands-on, front and center, sitting at the table with them. Awesome learning experience. He actually bought the deal, gave me my wholesale fee, and then I was off to the races. That was deal number 2. And that one was a lot more challenging because I didn't know what to do. It was hurry up, pick up that ball and run, and pick up the next one and run. So yeah, from there, I house hacked one of my father's properties. I've done a lot of dabbling. I have some experience with notes. I have flipped a few mobile homes now. So a little here, a little there.
Yeah.
Jack of all trades, master of none, just like the home inspector. It's very typical.
Wow. It's always really crazy too, especially in real estate, like, kind of like learning as we go and, either like, exactly, if the case is like, if you have something going on that, is really big that you've, been trying to do for a while. So like, in your case, it would be a wholesale, and somebody else's, it could be like, just putting like a house hack under contract or something, or even like something like off market or something. And, just going from like, all right, I have this under contract. I have no idea what to do now, and like, it's interesting, like how like almost backwards it works sometimes, because like, I know, like this is like especially kind of the way that I thought, going into real estate initially was like, oh, all right, like I need to learn as much as I can about everything so I know what to expect, and like, everything will be hunky dory and like there'll be no surprises. That's not how it works.
No, never. There will always be a surprise. It doesn't matter how well read or how experienced you are. Every deal is different. There's always something surprising.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. And you can learn for the rest of your life. You could spend just learning about real estate, different strategies, and that would be great, but you wouldn't have accomplished anything because at some point you just have to jump in and do the thing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And like to your point too of like, being able to cruise through that deal, after finding, like a team member and like, someone that you can, like give value to and they'll help you out, and, just kind of like finding that team and everything is, insane. Like like you said, like they can literally take you from, not having any idea of what's going on and like, just having like a verbal agreement type of thing until like you're actually at, the closing table or, whatever it may be. And it's unbelievable, because like if you try and like just learn all this stuff on your own and like trying to Google stuff and everything, like that's great, but it might not, I should say it probably won't be as practical as like you did, like just finding people in your market that are, that have done this before, giving them obviously something of value for their time and like helping you out and everything. And definitely, like starting a relationship there as well, like for the future and that type of thing.
Other people have definitely been the number one factor in my success.
Yeah.
Networking
it's insane.
I get more bang for my buck of my time. Definitely worth it.
Yeah. And it's unbelievable, you know what I mean? Like the thing that always kind of gets me too is like, especially the day and age that we live in, where like, you can hop on Instagram, like find like, 10 investors that are in, your town or your city or down the street from you or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And like shoot them a DM and be like, oh, hey, like I'm Kelsy, I'm Kyle, I'm like just jumping into this thing for the first time. And, like I've seen your posts and, I'd love to get a cup of coffee, or get a drink or whatever the case may be. And, like it always blows my mind, like most of us, like real estate investors in general, I guess, are just so apt to help each other. Like just because of, how much of a team-based sport it really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like who knows, like after doing that deal with that guy that you were talking about, like who knows, maybe like tomorrow, he'll reach out to you again and be like, oh, hey, like, I remember we did that one last time. Like, here's another one I got. Like, what do you think? And like, you just like, you never know, like it's just always an unknown. And it's so like the barrier to entry to make like an actual really good team around you is extremely low, with all like the technology and everything we have. And like I don't know, like I'm kind of curious what, even like people like your dad, like a little bit, older or whatever, would say about like creating your network and everything, like, before like pre-internet and stuff like that. And just kind of like how it worked back then, and like I mean, it wasn't that long ago, like bigger picture, but yeah.
Right. Things were very different then. There was no internet. So that one was off the table.
Yeah. Interesting. So from there, I guess, like how, what kind of got you into the side of, wanting to kind of learn a little bit more about like the home inspector side, and kind of like jumping into that profession?
So my second job ever, I was a house painter, and then being in Seattle again with, the eclectic Seattleites, it was always super fun to go inside other people's houses and sort of see how they lived. And there's a lot of Victorian houses in downtown Seattle, and those were my favorite because there's all sorts of features in those homes that we don't use anymore, like dumb waiters or the doorbells that you turn and ring when you twist them, and all kinds of fun stuff. So now it's my job, because as a painter, I would look at those things. I wouldn't touch it unless it was a surface that I was repairing or painting. But now it's my job to go through attic to crawl space and touch all of the things and see if they operate or not. So I feel like a little detective, and it's just, I get a lot of instant gratification out of, ooh, here's a defect, and just exploring properties,
Yeah.
especially historic ones.
Yeah, it's funny you say that about those like the doorbells that you like twist, because I saw
Yeah.
on somebody's Instagram story that's in like Southern Mass. He literally posted like yesterday, of him going up to this doorbell. And I'm like, dude, what is that? I'm like, I've never seen anything like that before. I'm like, yeah, I'm waiting for a gumball to pop out. He like twists it and it rings and everything.
It does look like that, yeah. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, no, that's incredibly interesting. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, it's so much fun, like just going into basements and stuff, especially in, some of those buildings, even, around Massachusetts, like, in like Lowell's and Worcester's, and some of these like, cities that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and
Yeah.
the structures are still the same, and just, some of the different aspects that you see, that have been there literally since then and like still holding strong. It's always really cool because like each one's going to be, a heck of a lot different most of the time.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's super fun.
Yeah, definitely. So what's kind of like, what's like the craziest thing that you've seen in a basement, or like something that might like really stick out to you, like whether it was like weird or like kind of jimmy rigged or.
So we were at a property and we almost missed this. There was the front porch. I was working with a teammate at the time. I got started with another home inspector working for somebody else. And we're working on inspecting this property. On the front porch, there was maybe a 2x2 by 6 inches to maybe a foot tall, like a concrete block, a big slab.
Yeah.
She wouldn't think anybody would move, but they were curious what was underneath there. So we slide out of the way, have a look. We peek down inside, and there's actually a mattress down there. And it's like a little crawl space. I think there was like cinder block foundation walls around it. There's a little plastic bag with who knows what hung on the wall. It looked like if somebody was going to be hidden away somewhere, that's where you would put them. And then they would never be able to move that concrete block by themselves. So that was a little suspicious.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah, that's been written down in history as the murder room. Then I guess, so the buyer's agent had asked the listing agent what that was about. And the seller's story was that it was their meditation room, which apparently had not been used for a very long time. And I could only argue that this would be a reasonable possibility if this were like some sort of sound isolation. What is it when you float in this pod and you can't hear anything? Sensory deprivation tank. It's sensory deprivation. That's the only thing that I could think you would need to be in that space for. So this is definitely the craziest thing we've found.
That's interesting. Oh my God.
That one was a lot of fun. We've seen hoarder houses too. And we see everything. And then I say that, and next week I'm going to inspect something and just be blown away. So we'll see what else I find.
It sounds like it's always exciting.
Yes, it is. Every property is different, for sure.
Wow. So, Kelsy, what's kind of your drive and your vision for the long term?
What's my drive? My vision for the long term. Well, I'm still set on my rental properties and just living off that passive income.
Mm-hmm.
My drive, I think, ultimately is freedom of choice.
Yeah.
If I have the opportunity to have that income, the cash flow coming in every month, I've got the freedom to choose where I want to live, where I want to go, when I want to go there, what kind of vacation I want to take, or, a buddy of mine, I'm picking him up from the airport tomorrow. He's coming for a visit. He's very nomadic, doesn't really have a place. He travels from Airbnb to Airbnb, country to country to see this friend or that friend. I actually met him in school in Thailand. So
oh, wow.
It's been international for a very long time. I think I look at that and I sort of reflect on my own choices and my own lifestyle. What am I doing that would enable me to have that same level of freedom of choice?
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so true. You know what I mean? Like it's, just to be able to just be independent,
Yeah.
People like, or doing the things that you're obligated to do rather than the things that you choose to do.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. If I didn't have to go to work tomorrow, what would I do with my time? Where would I spend that time? So
That's cool.
what?
Yeah, definitely. Especially
Yeah.
for like traveling and stuff too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I highly recommend it.
yeah.
Leaving the States. So the 6 years that I spent in Thailand, I was in college, so I learned a lot there, but I actually learned more from my life experiences being abroad than I did from, my entire college education. So you can get abroad to somewhere that is very different, somewhere that doesn't speak English as a primary language. Definitely recommend that.
Yeah.
It can be very formative.
That's crazy. I guess, like, how was it kind of like going over there for the first time? And like, were you like the only person like speaking English? And like, was there like
No.
a challenge there?
Well, so because going to simple tasks like going to the grocery store, that does become an adventure. So most people in Thailand do speak at least some English. There's signs posted on the freeways. They have Thai and English writing, so it's actually pretty easy to navigate. But if I'm trying to figure out what the ingredients are on this thing or where this thing is, it takes a little bit of learning. It's a
Yeah.
challenge.
That's cool though. Wow. It sounds like it was, kind of quite the adventure and, kind of like the life experience, to be able to pick up like, I don't know, like just different things about life in general, I guess, like aside from, like the education.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think the thing I like to bring up the most is I learned how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. There's a lot going on that I didn't understand what was going on. I was just standing there hanging out, waiting for something to
Something.
happen. I
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily comfortable, but then I just, you get used to it and nothing terrible happens, you
Yeah.
know. So, and that's been super beneficial to me investing in real estate too. If I hadn't learned to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, I wouldn't have answered the phone when that gal called and I
Yeah.
did that first wholesale deal. I wouldn't have then reached out to Mike Sumsky to say, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm absolutely clueless, super uncomfortable here. Can you help me? You know,
Yeah.
it's been a very useful skill to have. I wouldn't be on this podcast right now talking to you.
That's interesting. I really like that I guess that kind of like connection, you know what I mean? It's so true in real estate especially, because like we were talking about earlier, like the amount of times that like you just like, put something under contract or like just have like, a baseline knowledge of kind of what's going on. And then all of a sudden you have to figure out like a bunch more stuff. Like
Yeah.
it can be kind of scary, but I feel like it's a really important skill to learn, especially, kind of coming into real estate. Or even, like doing like your first flip or your first Airbnb or, whatever the case is. Like if you're trying to do anything, like you're going to be uncomfortable that first time.
Oh
You
yeah.
know? And
Yeah,
like,
you'll probably be uncomfortable the second time too.
yeah.
And every time I do a new deal now, I'm still uncomfortable.
Yep. Exactly.
They're
But
all
it's a
different.
good uncomfortable.
It is. If I weren't uncomfortable, I probably wouldn't be aware. I would be much more likely to make a mistake. And there's a lot at stake when you're working in real estate, right? This isn't chump change.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially now.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh. Kelsey, what is the most important lesson that you've learned over your career?
The most important lesson that I've learned over my career. I think I'm gonna say do it. Just do it. It's really simple. You just have to do it. And of course, I'm oversimplifying, but you have to dip your toe in at some point. You have to just do the thing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And Nike got it right.
Not sponsored.
No, you're totally right, and that's something that's really valuable is like, like we can always, read books or listen to podcasts or, even like have conversations with people while you're at a meetup or, just out and about. But I mean, it's almost like that's really, really good knowledge and everything that you're learning. And it's definitely life changing. But
Uh-huh.
I feel like, you can only learn, like there's only so much that you can kind of pick up. And you have to like, actually apply it, for it to
For
actually
sure,
like,
yeah.
take effect,
Doesn't matter how much you know. If you don't apply that knowledge,
Yeah,
it's not providing you the value that it could. You're not getting
exactly.
anything out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like the amount of lessons and everything that you're going to learn from taking action, and it's important, and like if you're going to be in this for the long game, like whatever your strategy is, like the thing that's really interesting and that I've seen like firsthand with my property was basically like, when we keep buying properties and doing deals and everything, like we're signing up for, hopefully everything that's glamorized, like, building up the equity in this property and living for free and financial freedom and, the whole shebang. But also, with that comes all like the issues and like, you're going to have to work your way through things and like things are going to happen. Like you're going to have 2 oil tanks and a furnace crap out on you 2 weeks about it.
Yeah.
And like if you want to be around for a long time, like, like you just kind of have to accept that, like you're taking on all the potential benefits and you're also taking on the lessons, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess you could say. And like, not that it's definitely not, like failure or anything. It just comes with the territory, and like if you're able to kind of like train yourself to, be able to work through issues and like, just kind of keep learning. And yeah, I mean, like, when you take action, you know what I mean? Like the first time that you do like a backsplash in a kitchen, like it might not come out that good, but like that's just part of the territory, like.
Well, the first time that you drove a car, you probably weren't that great.
Exactly.
When you were a baby learning to walk, probably didn't do that great at first. How many times did you fall on your face?
Yep.
And that's the same thing in real estate. I mean, hopefully they don't fall on your face, but there's a learning process. And you should continuously be learning whatever resource you're using. Mitigate your risk as best as you can, but you can never eliminate it. You can never know everything. And you certainly can't predict the future, like when your furnace is going to go out and your water heaters or.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and it's just something that, I mean, like the first time, it like, I guess you could say, if you are taking action, and, like just doing it, like you're just kind of building up that baseline for the first time, and like, yeah, like there's probably a decent chance that you're not going to like absolutely kill it, like whatever you're trying to do on the first shot. I mean, you might, and like, that's fantastic.
Act as if.
Exactly. And like, I don't know, like if you're just able to kind of accept that, like, you might not do that good on the first time around, but like the thing is that you took action, and like the next time around, you'll be able to, took what you did wrong the first time and learn from it and everything, and just keep pressing forward.
Yeah.
It's just it's part of the ride.
Yeah. After that first deal, even if you don't make any money on it, you've done the thing. It's a reality now, and you can go and do these other things with confidence.
Exactly. And I feel like that's something that's really big too, especially for like your first property, and whatever you're trying to do, is like, I feel like, being that early in the journey, like it's really like the education and the lessons and like really kind of like, I guess, building equity in yourself, like, and like just building the skill sets and doing some of the reps and like being banged around a couple times and, like just, it like pretty much a lot of like mindset and like actually, kind of like physical stuff, like, I don't know, like repointing like the brick chimney behind you or something, you know what I mean? Or like doing a water heater or whatever it is. Like I feel like it's, especially in the beginning, it's really, really crucial to just be learning as much as you can, like right off the bat. And like, yeah, I mean, like we're doing, like we're all looking to do this to make a profit at some point, you know what I mean? And that, kind of is a big factor. But I feel like, if you're looking to kind of be sustainable long term, if you're able to learn as much as you can from that first property and learn those lessons as early as you can, it's going to be easier to kind of build up and be sustainable, and kind of build up that shell and of, just kind of being resilient and being able to, just deal with issues as they come up. And I don't know, I feel like it's, especially in the beginning, like the education is extremely, extremely valuable.
For sure. And being able to roll with the punches will get you from A to B. And that's just where you're trying to go.
Exactly. It really is, and Yeah. Kelsey, how do you define wealth?
How do I define wealth?
This one
I'm gonna
usually
have
kind of trips people up a little bit, and I love to ask it.
I'm gonna circle back to freedom of choice.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't have wealth financially, I would have much less freedom of choice.
No, 100%. And just kind of like, I feel like that will kind of trickle into like a lot of other areas of your life too. You know what I mean? Like if you're able to have that time freedom back, like, now you're able to like exercise every day or, go out and I don't know, like go on a run or, it's exercise, but I don't know, or like, cook something really crazy for dinner every night, because you're not trying to like rush in and out and do all these things and whatever, like you'll just, I don't know, it's interesting. Like if you're able to kind of reclaim that time freedom back, like you'll be able to do a lot of those other things that you might not be able to on a day to day, which could hopefully also result in, more happiness, like, every day and that kind of thing. And
yeah. Yeah, if you aren't tied up actually being at work in your 9 to 5, or you've got more financial freedom, or you have more time freedom, you can then apply it to whatever you want, wherever you want. Is that with your family at home? Is that moving across the country to spend more time with them? Is that going overseas to get away from them? Or go on a vacation?
Probably both.
So, wealth, freedom of choice, either by time or by finances. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it certainly helps.
Amen to that. I hear you. Cool. I got one more question for you. The question is, do you read? And what is your favorite business, investing, or real estate book that you would recommend to anyone? Or like, podcasts or audiobooks, whatever you like.
All right. I'm definitely more of an audiobook person. I like to be on the move while I take that in. And I think I'm gonna have to circle back, just be super typical here. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because it's digestible for everyone, and it laid the foundation for me, that switch in mindset that allowed me to continue on and just be consistent in this venture.
Yeah.
So without that book that I threw away and then picked up again, I don't think I'd be where I am today. And I've read a lot of books since then, or listened to them, what have you. Many of them very common recommendations in this field because they've been so frequently recommended. But I think without that one, I wouldn't be here at all.
I totally agree with you. Like that book it's really something crazy. And it's funny you say that too, about like your dad showing you that book in high school, and then you kind of like brushed it off for a little while and like, it's whatever, and then it's kind of funny because like, so I'll tell like a couple of my buddies about that book, and I'm not going to call you out, my man, but if you're watching this, you know who you are, and I love you. But some people, I've gotten a couple of my friends to actually like buy that book. And I told him, I've like preached it to the choir to him a million freaking times. I'm like, dude, this book will completely change your life. And he just hasn't read it. And I'm like,
he hasn't read it.
No.
Has he seen your property?
Yes.
The fruits of your labor. I would take him through a tour of your property again. And then once you've got it all settled and rented out, I would show him your books. If you're that close. He's like, fine, buddy, don't read the book, but here it is.
It's funny you say that. Like it's just one of those things, and like I've gotten him to buy it, and like it's come up a couple times, like every couple months or whatever. He'll be like, oh, maybe I'll pick up Rich Dad Poor Dad again. I'm like, yep.
You do that. Does he have the audiobook version? Is that the issue?
No, it's a physical book, and I've told him
maybe he should listen to it on his way to work.
That's a good point. I'll have to make a suggestion.
It's a little easier. Eliminate obstacles.
Yeah. That's genius. Yeah. I'm going to try that. I'm going to text him right after this.
All right. I look forward to the update.
Yeah. Yeah, no, seriously. Like, that book is, like I can't even put it into words. You know what I mean? Like, that book starts so many, like, incredible paths for tons and tons of people. And I've told him, I'm like, dude, I paid $8 for this book on Amazon. I'm like, this will probably be like the highest return on investment in the entire world. Like, this changed my entire trajectory of my life in a million different directions. I'm like this book, man. I'm like, you gotta check this thing out. Like, like seriously, you know? Yeah. It's funny you say that about the audiobooks too, because so I was never really into them. And I actually, I would just kind of prefer, like, the physical book with a highlighter and a pen and, just making notes and stuff. And I listened to my first audiobook, like, I just finished it, like, a couple days ago, or I think, like, a week ago. And I was just kind of testing it out. I'm like, you know what, we'll try it. On my way to work, like, instead of doing podcasts, like, try that instead. And you know something? I really, really liked it. And I read another one since then. I'm like, wow. I'm like, you can like fly through books and like not even think anything of it. You know, I'm like, I actually really dig this. I'm like, this is cool.
How many hours does it take to get from cover to cover? You throw that into a work day.
Yeah.
That's where so when I was painting, I was a house painter for about 8 years. And so I spent 40 hours a week listening
cranking out books.
Yeah. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, everything else.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You don't have to think while you're working then.
Yeah, just mindless. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, maximize your time. Paint that wall.
Or drive it.
Yeah.
Or driving, well, I mean, pay attention while you drive, guys, but you get the point.
you can listen to an audiobook while you drive. That's another, how long is your commute? 30 minutes each way. It's an hour a day. It takes you a week to get through one book, and you didn't interrupt any other part of your life. Yep.
It's crazy. I'm really, really pleased with how much, I'm actually starting to really like it. The only thing I do kind of have an issue with, which I don't really know how to solve it, is like if I hear something while I'm driving, like I'll be going down the highway or something, and like something that like really hits me like a sack of bricks, and like something that like I want to write down, I'm like, shit, I'm like, how am I supposed to write this down? I'm going like 80 on the highway. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I try and like pause it until I get to where I'm going and like just kind of keep that thought like going around. Yeah.
Do you have
that I haven't
Siri?
Figured out.
Siri or OK Google?
Yes.
Put it on a voice notification or make it so that it hears your voice when you say OK Google or what have you. Watch everybody's phones just went off. And then repeat the message.
That's genius.
Then you're taking notes without having to take your hands off the wheel or your eyes off the road.
Ah.
Give that a shot, maybe.
Yeah. We get a lot of action to take after this podcast. That's genius. Yeah, honestly, like I've never really played around with it. Like Siri or anything. Like I don't know, but in that case, that could fix some problems.
Usually I'm using it for, okay, Google, set a reminder to do this thing at this time. And
yeah,
I don't see why it wouldn't work for note keeping on audiobooks.
That's genius. I'll keep you posted about that too.
All right. I hope it's helpful.
Thank you so much for coming on here, Kelsy. Where on like social media and stuff can you and your company be found? Like email, I'll drop everything you got.
All right. So my company is Soderlund Inspections. You can find me on all of the social medias at Soderlund Inspections, all one word. And you can find me, my website, soderlundinspections.com. You can send me an email. It's Kelsy, Kelsy, at soderlundinspections.com. You can even call me, 774-276-9868.
Nice. Guys, definitely reach out to Kelsy. She's absolutely amazing. If you need inspections done, especially for multifamily too, definitely give her a buzz.
I'm looking at it with the eye of an investor too. So
yes,
which is huge. Talk shop while I'm there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on here,
Thank
Kelsy.
you for having me. This was awesome.
That was absolutely awesome. Thank you so much.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs. and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.